Frontier City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation, and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
Our speakers today, Mr. Barraclough is going to introduce them, and welcome back. So can we give him a big welcome? And that's all for me at the moment.
Hey. Greetings to all. Coronavirus, today's topic. We have two expert speakers to come, and I think I'm on the front end as the introduction and the comic relief, okay? Because it can be quite a high-powered subject, and we will be moving forward very fast throughout the whole presentation. So two speakers from Mahidol University, Institute for Tropical Medicine, who are experts in this field. All right, can we go for Right, I regret I have to read this disclaimer for all three of our presenters in full. The opinions presented are our opinions. You must not use them as personal medical advice. You must never disregard any advice from your own clinician because of something you have heard or read in this presentation. This is not a substitute for professional personal medical advice. If you have a problem, go and see a doctor. You can't say, I heard it at PCEC, okay? All right, declaration of interest. I took money from anyone who couldn't run away fast enough. However, I have no shares in Corona beer, and I don't sell face masks. So I'm not aware of any conflict of interest in today's presentation for any of our presenters. This is not our own material. Everything we are presenting is from verified sources. Most of it is from the World Health Organization. I start with a caution. As you can see here, around 70% of the information available on the English websites and on media in Thailand is false information. There is a vast amount of false information. The 2019 novel coronavirus is new. Not a lot is known with certainty. Often our responses to your question is going to be, we don't know yet. And that is exactly correct. We don't know yet. We can give you opinions, we can give you ideas, but we don't know for certain with fact. This presentation is largely from sources of World Health and the Thai Ministry of Health and the US CDC, the Center for Communicable Diseases. So it's new, we don't know, does not give you license to invent information. That COVID-19 comes from bats. Well, it probably does, because coronavirus is common in bats. Okay? We don't know for sure it comes from bats. It's maybe bats are involved. Okay? Some people say it comes from snakes. Highly unlikely. Others say from the market it came from squid. Well, you would have to be doing something very unusual and almost certainly illegal with the squid to contact coronavirus, right? But you'll see this kind of rubbish published on the internet. Okay? Some people say it's nothing to worry about, only a few people have died. It's not like flu, it's just a bad flu, you're getting overexcited. Over 1,000 people have died already. That's more than the whole of the SARS outbreak. This is not just bad flu. This is something to take seriously. We don't know what the death rate is. We really don't know. We don't have enough hard information and figures. Okay? It's spread by coughing. Yes, it almost certainly is spread by coughing. But we don't know for sure what other transmission mechanisms are there. Is it spread through the eyes? There is some information to suggest that might be the case. Is it possible to transmit through other body fluids? There is some information to suggest that people who are nursing corona patients have contracted it from other body fluids. We don't know. Everyone can speculate, everyone can say it's from here. We don't know. And if fake news wasn't enough, I'm afraid all the scammers are out. If you receive an email from World Health Organization with attachments, it's probably a scam. Yeah? WHO doesn't use attachments, it sends you internet links. If you click on the attachments, you're probably going to get a virus on your machine. Okay? So beware of the scammers. Okay. What are the reliable information sources? World Health Organization, the USA CDC. World Health Organization website is updated every day with the status, usually at midnight Geneva time. You get the new status for the day. Thailand Ministry of Public Health has a complete web page in English explaining what's happening, and there is detailed information in English on that web page. So, the Thai web page also has lots of infographics, easy to understand, simple language in multiple languages. Please take time to look at it. It is detailed. These are some of the detailed advice for all different conditions: restaurants, temples, religious institutions, okay? And it being Thailand, of course, we have detailed information on massage parlours. There it is. And for those that frequent such establishments, you'll be pleased to know it does not involve my usual recommendation of the wire brush and Dettol. Okay. That is for coronavirus, but other diseases you might contract in such establishments are your own problem. WHO also has very detailed advice. If you don't know, go and look at some real information. Don't keep looking at all this on Facebook and everyone's opinion. This is fact, not opinion. Okay. Let's skip over that. Okay. Why is it called the coronavirus? Because the virus has got lumps on the outside. Technically, they are sugary protein spikes. And the original lab staff felt that this looked like the knobs on a baronal coronet. Our opinion is the lab staff need to get out a bit more. If you think that looks like the knobs on a coronet, you're probably having trouble. Okay. Right, that's the comic introduction. Now it's time for a real expert to give you the details. Dr Hisham Imad from Mahidol University in Bangkok will now carry on from here.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Before I start, I would like to mention that we were invited here by Professor Barraclough, and then emailed me asking if we can come and give you guys a bit of a talk about the new coronavirus. So we would like to take the opportunity to conduct our flighty expat research and all at the same time give the talk. So the coronaviruses, as you already know, it belongs to the Nidovirales family, which has a few other viruses, such as the coronavirus, which is the family, and then you have the coronavirus and the torovirus. These viruses, they look like these, spherical shape. It looks like what Annie has said. So that's what the virus looks like on the electron microscope. So here you see these knobs, which are the receptors which the virus requires to bind and gain entry into the cell. And this is the 3D model of the virus. And you see these receptors, like the spike glycoprotein, which the researchers claim is the receptor which attaches to the ACE inhibitor, one of the receptors which you have, which probably most of you are taking some anti-hypertensive drugs which works on that receptors. So maybe you might not be getting sick after all because the receptor is inhibited. But that's just for us to like discover furthermore. So it has all these other proteins which has different functions in viral replication, viral assembly, and also releasing of the virus to the body system. And we have the human coronavirus, right? Coronaviruses has been around for a long time. In 1960s, it was first discovered as the 229E alpha coronavirus, and then the second was one is in Netherlands in the 1963, and then they also isolated one from organ culture, which is the organ culture 43, and then later on in Hong Kong, 2 patients had a new coronavirus. So these coronaviruses, they 15% of the common cold you have are from these viruses. So it's common to have like a coronavirus illness which causes respiratory tract infections and sometimes lower respiratory tract infections such as pneumonia, and in pediatric cases it causes diarrhea. All right. Okay, and then the other concerning human coronaviruses are the MERS, which was detected, I think, in 2007. And then SARS in 2002, and then we have the new coronavirus, right? Okay, so moving on. So why do we have infectious diseases? Anyone has a clue? Well, it's because Mother Nature is playing games with us, right? But in other words, it involves in the trinity of a vector, which in our case is the Batman. Not the Batman, but a bat. Okay, and bats are known to harbor the animal reservoirs, right? So they harbor lots of parasites, viruses, bacteria, fungi, and some of the known viruses which our reservoirs are the rabies virus, Nipah virus, and Ebola. And these viruses are pretty nasty because they can, the fatality is quite high. Right? So to complete the trinity, you need the host, which the virus can manifest the disease, and then they succumb to the illness. So all these, when you have the trinity of the host and the pathogen and the vector or the animal reservoir, you have like diseases called zoonosis. So zoonosis are diseases which you get from animals, right? So some of the zoonosis we know around like probably swine fever, maybe avian flu, leptospirosis, Hendra virus from Australia, all right, toxoplasma from cats, bats, probably SARS and MERS, and all that we mentioned. So all these, the deer, maybe limes, all right? So when you have the trinity of the host, the pathogen, and the vector, you have like diseases called zoonosis, which can infect humans when they live in close proximity. Okay. So the zoonosis, one of the zoonosis is the SARS. As you all know, the severe acute respiratory syndrome caused by the SARS virus, and it had some intermediate hosts, initially believed to be bats, but then they thought it was the civet cat and the raccoons, and then there was some spillover and the humans got this infection. And fatality of SARS is like around 10%. And that's the timeline of what had happened. The outbreak was not that long, it lasted 6 months or 4 months, and then we were able to, the health authorities were able to contain it. And then we're moving on to Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. This is another disease caused by another SARS virus, human virus, with a fatality not 14%, but around 40%. And so the intermediate host are the bats and the dromedary camels. And then it's found in the Middle East. There was been isolated outbreaks in Toronto, in UK, and also most recently in Korea. So that's the timeline. It's still going on. There's like there's quite a lot of infected, and since the fatality is high, most of them are fatal. And then coming to the coronavirus, the COVID-19. So initially, when it came out, it was known as the Wuhan pneumonia. And then 2009 and coronavirus, and then I think last week WHO came up with this, the COVID. So there was speculation, is it like China outbreak virus in December 19? So nobody really knows, but the real word is coronavirus disease, right? So the coronavirus has, what's been mentioned, nobody really knows where the origin is, but the virus resembles a lot of similarity with the black coronaviruses and also with the pangolin. So there is 97% match with the pangolin coronavirus with the new coronavirus. So the symptoms, like what you get is like you develop upper respiratory tract infection, and since the virus likes the receptors in the lower respiratory tract, you get pneumonia. And there's also another group where they don't have symptoms, right? Or they have subclinical symptoms, which means like you feel quite well, but you come to the hospital and the doctor takes an X-ray, and then you see infiltrates in your lung, you see pneumonia. So that's what's new about the coronavirus, new coronavirus, that you might be asymptomatic, or you might have subclinical symptoms which you can transmit the infection to others. So there's been cases like that reported, like a child who was not in a family who was not showing symptoms was able to infect the family. So that's different in the new coronavirus. Unlike the MERS and SARS, which are nosocomial, which means that the transmission spread from the hospital. So here we see the transmission is spreading community-based, and now it's more spreading in a nosocomial way. So that's the timeline. Detected first cases were detected mid-January, mid-December, and then when there was like a whole cluster of patients and fatality high among them, WHO, the Chinese authority informed the WHO, and it took like a month for the WHO to declare that it's a public health emergency. Okay, so this is a very good site where you can get like real-time data. So this is the present situation. So I think the number has gone up. So it's already more than the death toll in SARS and MERS cumulatively. Probably not MERS, but SARS, yeah. Sorry. So these are the countries affected. Japan's just right after China. China is the main epicenter where like most of the cases are there, and also the fatality rate is also high in China. So what we speculate is like because 10 million people are affected and 10 million people are seeking healthcare at the same time. So it's a bit overwhelming for the Chinese authorities, so probably they're not getting this supported care in time, leading to like fatalities in mainland China. And that's the death rate. It's been increasing in February. And this is the how it got spread, because there were a lot of Chinese residing in China, and the governments they had to repatriate the citizens back. So there were like a whole number of individuals being repatriated back to their country from the epicenter. So ideally they get quarantined for like 14 days, but as you know, there's more evidence that the incubation period might be a bit longer. I'll come to that a little bit later. And then we get cases like this diagram shows the number of exported cases. And then in Thailand, there was a lot of tourists coming in for the Lunar New Year, and then they infected some local taxi drivers, which then probably is a way to spread the disease. So how is it transmitted? We know that it's a respiratory tract, it causes respiratory tract diseases, so the viruses, the virions, will be secreted in the secretions in the respiratory tract, so like with your saliva, with the mucus. So probably that those viruses will be it will be propelled out when you cough or when you sneeze, and then it goes and lands on your mucous surface, like your mouth, your nose, or you touch something and then you touch your eyes, your nose. So if the virus gets exposed to a mucosal surface area, which the virus enters the body, right? And then replicates, infects cells. There's a replication of virus, and then infects the other cell. So what we what we know is like this is the diameter of your hair, one single strand of hair. That's the filtration size. I'm sorry about this. So it's, I think the filtration size is 0. What is it? Can't remember. This is 0.3, and this is, I think, surgical mask is a bit. It filters out a bit larger droplets. So the transmission is, so when you sneeze and when you cough or when you have runny nose, these droplets, which are 100 microliters in size, they don't travel far, right? So this is an example of Ebola, right? So Ebola is contact precaution, and then sometimes it gets aerosolized, and there's a gray zone here. But what is airborne is measles, chickenpox, which have like a nuclei droplets, so which can remain suspended in the air or travel further, right? So for coronaviruses, surgical mask probably is not recommended if you're not having symptoms, but then if you are having, the mask is actually recommended for those who are having symptoms so that you don't infect others. You do a proper okay. So diarrhea. There are some speculations that diarrhea is maybe a source of transmission. But from the literature, what we reviewed in the literature, we know that the viruses cannot survive in feces. So it's just the virus-like particles which are found in the feces, but we don't know if it would be able to like infect the other person or cause an immunological reaction. So that's that. And the symptoms, as you all know, that's the incubation period, right? So usually, just like any other viral common illness, this illness, the incubation period will be short, from my opinion, because as you know, common cold, you see someone, you meet someone with a common cold and the next day you have symptoms, right? You get exposed, so it's very short. But then this virus, based on the studies, they figure out, okay, maybe the incubation period is a bit longer than 5 days, and then maybe as long as 14 days, and now the latest is as long as 3 weeks. So if you get symptoms and you get detained in quarantine, maybe you might be kept away for 3 weeks, right? Okay, so this is the case series, the first case series published about the initial 100 cases, and most of them were working at the market, at the wet market in Wuhan, right? And the majority infected are men, so probably coronavirus is female. Learning from that, then probably the coronavirus is female. Right? So if you have like based on these results, if you're like about 60 years old, or if you have underlying comorbidities like diabetes, ischemic heart diseases, then the risk is higher for you to have a complication. All right. Okay, moving on. So how bad is this outbreak? So here we're comparing all the 3 recent outbreaks of zoonosis. So we have the new coronavirus, which has already infected caused death over 1,500 people, which is in contrast to like the coronavirus, which only killed around 800 people, and MERS probably around the same number. So that's Ebola. So the Ebola outbreak lasted, I think, 2-3 years. And then that's the fatality, like around 15,000 people. So COVID is it's a new pathogen. It's similar to the SARS virus, but it's behaving like the influenza virus. So it's having the potential to like be a super spreader, but it is not yet a super spreader. Okay, so my last slide. This is our study, the Flatty Expect study, that which most of you have participated. And this is one of the preliminary results, which we've developed into a poster and presented in the States. So, Dr. Wasin will talk after me, and he will tell you about all the precautionary methods you can take against this new virus, and what do you have to do if you have symptoms, and what happens in the Thai health regulatory system when they do the quarantine. All right, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Wasin, and thank you, Rain, for inviting me to talk today. So I will talk about the important part of the novel coronavirus. This is the previous name of this disease. However, this disease is declared the coronavirus disease 19, which is declared by the WHO. So what would you know how to prevent the disease, especially if you're living here in Thailand, whereas the disease exists and we have the case reported. So just summarize a little bit about the case and situations around the world, as Dr. Hisham is already mentioned that the disease is spread around the world. About 29 countries at the moment affected this novel coronavirus. And so far, this is the as of 15 February, we have at least 60,000 cases with 1,500 dying in this situation, and case fatality rate is about 2.27%. And in Thailand, as of 15 as yesterday, we have 34 reported cases, but at the moment, no case in the serious condition or have reported die in Thailand. And just emphasize a little bit about the COVID-19 or novel coronavirus infections. As you know, it's the viral infections transmitted by the respiratory droplet, and the incubation period is about 2 to 14 days. It's very ranged. And one thing that we found in the literature is that asymptomatic patients can transmit disease as well. So this is very important. We don't know about, they might have some more information about the characteristic and the nature of this virus as well. And what's the droplet transmission? It is released by coughing, sneezing, or suctioning. So, but the droplet is a large particle. So when you cough or sneezing, the large particle and it can inhale within 3 feet. So as long as you stay away from the patients at least 3 feet or 1 meters, it would be okay at the moment. And it's required glove, mask, and placement of more than 3 feet, especially in the hospital. So what's the pathogens which is droplet transmission, like influenza, pertussis, rubella, pneumococcal disease? This is the common pathogen that we found before the novel coronavirus, which is transmitted by droplet transmission. So this is this diagram to show you the droplet transmission. Like this is a patient and the large particle here. Once you cough or sneezing, the large particle will drop around here. So what could you do? This is like the infograph, like the Dr. Hisham mentions about the large particle of the droplet. Usually not more than 3 feet or 1 meters. So how can I avoid getting infected? This is very important that you should know, right? Especially who are planning to travel to China at the moment.
No, please.
Okay. So the recommendation is that, especially in the US CDC or even in Thai Ministry of Public Health, they have the travel warning is level 3. The level 3 means non-essential travel. Avoid non-essential travel. That's mean at the moment, if you don't have any things to do in China, try to avoid travel to that, and try to avoid with the public place where the Chinese travelers. Okay, so avoid contact with 6 people. This is really, general recommendations, right? So anyone have respiratory symptoms at the moment? Okay. So one thing that we found that this coronavirus outbreak is related is that they found a cluster of pneumonia in the ones who visiting in the seafood market in Wuhan district in Hubei province, and they try to, and in that market they not just sell only seafood, They have wild animal, they have bats, they have reptile, they have many, even koala meat. Yeah, it's in that market. So try to avoid the crowded places like market or where the leaves or dead animal is handled. And follow the rules of governance and hygiene in food, like in Thailand at the moment. So once you have travel from China, or at the moment it's in China, and I mean, it should be informed to another affected countries like Japan. If you have developed like GI symptoms, you should seek the medical care. We'll talk in detail later on. So wash your hand and soap with water or alcohol sanitizers. So avoid contact with animals and the excretion of droplet. Okay, so what should I do if a close contact with someone who has novel coronavirus? If you have that, notify the public health. Or if you return from the affected area, especially China, notify to the in your area. In Thailand, we have the hotline, we call DDC hotline from Disease Control Department. You can call 1422, it's work 24/7 day. And if you develop any GI symptom, as I told you, you should contact them and they will send the team and bring you to the isolation. I mean, hopefully not here. Okay, so what's the rules for disinfections or hand washing here? Hand washing, this is the important keys to prevent infections. So how do you do is that wash your hand with soap at least 20 seconds and use the alcohol gels or hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol to destroy the virus. And so as the Dr. Hisham said, the virus enter your body with the eyes or mucosa, so avoid touching them. And especially if you are unwashing hand, try to avoid touching your eyes or mucosa, nose and mouth. This is really the questions that widely discussed about the face mask. Is it effective protecting against novel coronavirus? Yes, it's protect, especially if you had symptoms or you have the disease. But face masks do not seem to be effective in the one not infected. But we try to encourage, as I told you, novel coronavirus still shedding or transmit the virus even if you don't have any symptoms. But so that's why we don't know. So at the moment we try to encourage Thai people try to wear masks and also hand hygiene and washing hands. So we do have to have many preventive measures to prevent the disease, not just the masks, right? Washing your hand, use the alcohol gels. Okay, so is there vaccine? Not yet, right? It's don't have the vaccine yet, but the development's still ongoing in many vaccine pharmaceutical companies. And is the virus protecting from the influenza vaccine? No, right? It's different, right? It's different virus. However, as we found, most of the fatal cases is in elderly. So even it's not, I mean, influenza vaccine is not preventing novel coronavirus, but we try to encourage you to get influenza vaccine because it's still, I mean, it's seasonal influenza can cause the more fatality, especially in the age more than 60 years old. So who gets the vaccines? I mean, influenza vaccines already? Okay, good. If not, you should, right? Okay, so this is travel advice for travelers. I told you, at the moment they try to avoid non-essential travel to the travelers to China. At the moment in China, and also in Chinese government, they try to limit the travel of the Chinese out of the country as well. Okay, as I told you, this USCDC warning level 3, this is the highest level warning. So it's not essential travel for the prevent coronavirus. Okay, so I think you might get some ideas about novel coronavirus and how to prevent, especially if you live here in Thailand. And if you have any problems or if you have any questions regarding your contact with the cases, you can call the hotline. Do you remember the number? 1422. Very good. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, you've had two experts, we're back to the comic relief now. And good. Okay, people ask about diagnosis. Diagnosis of coronavirus is very complex, it's high-tech. Typically, the machine involved costs about $100,000. Fortunately, the reagents are relatively cheap. They're only about $8 to $10 for the reagents. Okay? So, the reason why we could diagnose coronavirus quickly is because these machines, which actually analyze DNA, we're looking not quite at DNA, we actually look at the RNA of the virus, were available. They were available because they were sponsored by Global Fund from Geneva, a World Health Organization initiative to detect multiple drug-resistant tuberculosis and various forms of HIV. So we were lucky, we had the kit ready. All we needed was the reagents. That's why we had such a good response and we could diagnose it very fast. We can be certain it's coronavirus, this strain of coronavirus, because we're actually analyzing the RNA of the virus itself. Real high-tech needs skilled operators and very expensive equipment to do it. That's not the case in Africa. If the disease transfers to low-income countries, we're seeing it now in Sri Lanka, going to be much more of a problem. Okay, just to do some very quick myth busters before we finish off. Okay. Can you get coronavirus on a letter from China? No. Even if it's been licked, spat on, and there are bodily fluids involved, no, you can't. Okay? If you're trying to import exotic foodstuffs from China, you're probably heading for a long time in the Bangkok Hill. We talked about a zoonotic virus. It comes from animals. Can your pets, can your dogs and your cats give you coronavirus? No, they don't. We have no evidence of transfer from domestic pets. If you are keeping bats or civet cats, you probably need some veterinary advice on that as well. Okay? Do vaccines protect? Have you already heard? No. We don't have a vaccine for coronavirus yet. 3 different bodies are hard at work rushing to make a vaccine. The best estimate from World Health Organization is 18 months. They'll start the clinical trials in about 6 months' time. Okay? We've got to be sure the virus is safe before we give it to large numbers of people. So even though 3 different ideas are in process, they're producing the vaccine now. It's got to go to animal trials first, then it goes to human trials, and then finally it's released. Okay. However, we're not sure But a lot of the people who have died from coronavirus appear to have died from bacterial pneumonia. That's not evidence, it's opinion. We don't have hard evidence. So I know that following my talk on vaccinations, you all went out and got the pneumococcal vaccine, didn't you? No. All right? So pneumococcal vaccine will not protect you from coronavirus. It might stop you dying from it. Can rinsing the nose with saline protect you from the new coronavirus? No. However, if you play the Isan nose flute, I'm told it helps you get a very good G flat. Can garlic protect you? No, although it might stop people coming near you. I suppose that's a form of protection. Can gargling with mouthwash protect you? No, but if you've been on the garlic, it's probably a good idea anyway. Can sesame oil block the virus? No, but you saw the advice from the massage parlour earlier on. I think if you're taking the sesame oil to the massage parlour with you, it's probably better than the recycled baby oil that they're using. Does it affect older people? Anyone can become infected, however, it appears the majority of the deaths are in older people. It's not universally, there are some younger ones involved, but the majority in older people. Point about that is to keep fit, to keep well and guard your health generally. You allow your immune system to become weakened, you have a much greater susceptibility to the virus. Can antibiotics help? Not for coronavirus, it's a virus. Antibiotics don't work against a virus. However, part of the treatment might be that you're given antibiotics to stop secondary bacterial infections. The virus weakens the immune system, makes you more susceptible to other infections. Okay, so we shouldn't rule them out, but they don't treat the coronavirus, they can only treat the secondary infections. Are there any specific medicines to treat the new coronavirus? Various countries, and here in Thailand, they are trying using antiviral medicines. They are trying to use some of the medicines used for HIV/AIDS treatment. Some success has been reported, very few cases. The simple answer is we don't know. Some appear to work. It's too early to tell if the antivirals will work. Okay, time for Q&A. Where is the rest of the come and share the blame. Go on.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we got one.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I lived in Hong Kong during the SARS period.
Go ahead, yep.
Sorry. And I believe there was a fundamental infrastructure problem in the hospitals, which they discovered halfway through. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Can you explain to the audience what it was, and if it's available here?
Many of the hospitals are very old designs. They are not built for isolation, they are not built for containing infectious diseases. Most of the hospitals in Hong Kong, unfortunately, were of British design from the 1950s, because they had lots of designs hanging around. And they are not conducive to giving protection. They didn't protect against TB transmission, and they certainly didn't protect against SARS transmission. These days, people with infectious diseases tend to be isolated into the equivalent of intensive care units and specialist isolation wards. A general hospital won't do much good if it doesn't prevent the transmission. And that was the fundamental problem in Hong Kong. They had an air conditioning system which was excellent at spreading the virus throughout the hospital.
I think the problem really was that the ICU
the ICU was an overpressurized system, and what they did in the end was they made the ICU, or the special treatment unit, a vacuum system. So any air that went in was filtered before it went in, and it was filtered as it went out through a MERS filter. Is that correct?
That's correct. ICUs are over pressure. They are kept above normal atmospheric pressure by fans. And only slightly over, we're talking about 1 inch water gauge over pressure. That is to prevent infection coming into the ICU. Okay? However, isolation wards are negative pressure. They are kept below normal atmosphere pressure by about 4 inches of water. There's quite a suck when you go through the doors into these rooms. So that infection doesn't get out. But the particular problem in Hong Kong was the HEPA filter system was a recirculating system, not a one-screw system.
Okay. Can I remind everybody, one question, if there's time, we'll allow you another question. Brian.
Yes, I live in Barraclough. If I come down with all the symptoms and I decide to go to the Barraclough Hospital, do they have the machine to test me? And if they don't have the machine, if they think I may have the disease, the virus, where will they send me from Pattaya?
China.
Okay. So one thing is that we have the criteria we call the patient under investigation. At the moment, they have 3 criteria. First, you would have fevers and UI symptoms. Second, you have to return from China within 14 days. And 3 is close contact with the confirmed case. However, if you don't put in the 3 criteria, you're not the PUI or patient under investigation. But if you have fulfill the criteria, they will call the disease control department and bring you to this designated hospital in Bangkok to quarantine, right?
Okay, so one hospital in Bangkok has been designated to handle.
Right. Not just only one at the moment. Yeah, they have so many.
It's a screen one time, sorry.
Right.
Person under investigation, PUI.
PUI.
Okay.
Okay, Lisbon.
And just to add something, like you have to have lower respiratory tract infection. You have to have something like a very bad chesty cough, not just running nose or sore throat. You just have to have a chesty cough and fever to meet the criteria, correct?
Okay.
You mentioned about the vaccine. Is the only delay in creating the vaccine the testing? Like, is that basically what it comes down to?
It's impossible to say at this time. There are 4 different groups working on the vaccine. 3 were already working on Coroner vaccine. They were sponsored by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Each of those groups have got a different idea how to make the vaccine. There's a 4th group, a commercial group sponsored by Johnson & Johnson, working on it. So there are 4 different ideas of the vaccine going forward. We don't know if any of those ideas will work. They're the same ideas that have been used on other vaccines. But as we know from malaria vaccine, what works in the lab doesn't always work in the field. You know? We've had a lot of false starts. So we're being a bit cautious because we're not sure if any of those approaches will work. They've all worked on other diseases, they've all worked on other viral infects, so probably one of them will. But which one or none, we have to wait and see. Okay?
Over there.
Yes. About 72 hours ago, Los Alamos National Laboratories in the United States, the same lab that built the atomic bomb, came out with a report that the novel coronavirus is much more infectious and much more transmissible than people thought. They estimated the doubling time is 2.4 days. They estimated the R0 number is 4.7 to 6.6. And they said that the city of Wuhan, the way the CCP locked it down, they estimated the RO number at 2.2. This means that if every city in the world followed that draconian lockdown of Wuhan, this epidemic would not stop. The other question I have for you is this.
question.
The rate of infection or transmission of the disease. Okay, right now, all the data is from one city, Wuhan. We don't even have the transmission rates from other cities in China. Yeah? Population density in Wuhan is enormous. It's 11 million people, bigger than Bangkok. Yeah? So can we extrapolate that data to other parts of the world? It's not clear. Yes, it has been underestimated. The transmission rate certainly has been underestimated. But we shouldn't get too clear until we have some data, and we don't. We're not seeing a lot of transmission in other cities in China. Yeah? So, we don't know. Preliminary estimates have been made. Certainly, it sounds like we must take it seriously. That was my point before. There is a trend to dismiss it. It's just a kind of bad flu. No, it isn't. Unless you've got count death among bad flu.
Okay. Over here.
What is your personal opinion if this is a biochemical attack? Is it a fiction?
Well, if it's a bioweapon, they would have the antidote, so they would not let so many people die if they have the antidote, right? So it's clearly not a bioweapon, I think so. And very important, like during this outbreak, we also have another outbreak. It's called infodemic. So there's a lot of information available, and like Professor Barraclough said, we have to look at the real, what's not fake news. So it's good to leave these decisions and see if it was a bioweapon or not to the CDC or WHO. So if they say, okay, this is a bioweapon, probably then we might not worry about it. Otherwise, it's just not true.
You don't need to bring the conspiracy theory of a bioweapon. In Wuhan, they have the perfect situation for breeding new virus attackers. We've got wild animals next to domestic animals with an exceedingly high population density. That's a recipe for disaster. Yeah? Whenever you have that mixture of wild animals alongside domesticated animals and high population density, you're going to get virus spillover. It's happened before, it will happen again. There are at least 5 other types of coronavirus circulating in animals. They're going to cross over if you don't address public health issues. If you don't have basic sanitation and you don't have market control, you're going to get more. But we don't need bioweapons because they're doing it anyway.
You have a travel advisory, level 3. How about flying through Chinese airports? Not getting out. Through.
You mean transit?
Transit through Beijing or Shanghai. Is that okay, or still an advisory?
It's okay. I mean, at the moment it's okay, but in the airport of the destination, we screened all of the flight coming from China, right? So even in Suvarnabhumi airport, we have the screened, thermometer screening at the port of entry in the airport.
But a lot of countries, I think 11 or 17 countries have stopped the flights flying to China, and also stopped the borders, closed the borders, and also refused entry of those from Hubei. So there are some countries having these implications. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the sensitization. I just want to be sure, is it true that African blood is resistant to the coronavirus? Because I've heard of this before, and actually, when you were presenting, when you showed the infected areas, Africa was not part of it. So I just want to be sure of that.
Want me to take it? Okay, right. No, it's not true. There were 2 reported cases in Botswana, in Gaborone. Yeah. Fortunately, both tested negative. Okay, but no one is resistant to coronavirus. It's new. Okay, some other diseases long established, like malaria, there is natural malaria resistance in parts of Africa because of long established disease patterns. Okay, there is not for coronavirus. It's new. No one's resistant to it. And if you're not careful, everyone ends up a little bit dead.
Do you know anything about what's happening in North Korea? Because we haven't heard anything.
I can state with certainty that nobody knows what's happening in North Korea. I have been there, I have worked in Pyongyang, and it's not something I intend to repeat in my life.
Over here, Barry. Yep. Hello.
Yep.
Hello, Barry and doctors. Thank you for coming. Right. We are supposed to be going to Laos on a visa run. Would you suggest we go or stay?
Just cross the border and come back, right? Yeah, there's no contraindications or no limit travel to Laos at the moment. And yeah.
I might suggest you avoid the deep fried bat in Laos. It's one of the delicacies in Vientiane, no?
Is the PCR test available in Thailand? And how long does it take to get the result?
You want to take it?
Yeah, so to confirm the case in Thailand at the moment, we use 2 authorized institutes in Thailand, both in the disease control department, and one in the Chulalongkorn University, and another one in the Ramatipati Hospital. So they will send the specimen to this pool of the authorized institute, and it will return back in 24 to 48 hours.
We also have our own in-house PCR system at the hospital, so we are perfecting it.
So many medical school and the reference center in Bangkok try to have the in-house PCR tests, but it's not authorized by the Ministry of Public Health yet, because they have so many published about the. So, they will have the confirmed and expert and authorized to confirm that this is the really confirmed the case.
Okay, that's all. Lots of places have the PCR equipment. Not everyone is authorized to certify the presence of coronavirus 19.
All right, I just add one thing to that. So the main reason is we're not allowed to do experiments with the virus is because it's new. We really don't know the transmission modes. So some of the researchers consider it as a BSL-4 pathogen, which is equal to Ebola, and some researchers consider it as BSL-3, which is like chikungunya. So the WHO recommends us, warns us, advises not to virus isolation or any experiments with the new coronavirus until it's been done somewhere else.
Okay, let's talk about masks. I know you showed a few of them up there on your slide. I've always been under the impression a mask is for if you have a cold so you don't spread it to somebody else, going out only, not coming in, right? My girlfriend works in a small pharmacy here, and they sell 200,000-300,000 baht a day in a mask. So should I wear one if I'm not sick?
Yes.
Okay.
Should I hit these guys in front of me too?
Yeah. You only get one question. Okay, let's take the situation in slices. The official advice, there's no agreed medical opinion on wearing surgeons' face masks. You're quite correct. A surgeon's face mask is not to protect the surgeon. It's to stop the surgeon spitting and hawking all over you while he's inside your guts. Yeah. So it's going the wrong way. That's not to say it can't provide some protection. Remember the droplets. The virus is only 0.1 micron. Yeah? A face mask is typically 2 to 3 micron filter. But it's not going to stop the virus. The virus very rarely is on its own. It's nearly always on a water droplet or a piece of dust. The mask can filter that. Okay? So, different opinions, you'll see different people giving opinions, they're useless, go and have a beer. Okay. Yes, you really should be wearing one. Yeah.
And one drawback, if I may add something, one drawback about wearing masks is like we are always advocating like not to touch your face, not to touch rub your eyes, not to like pick your nose, put your fingers in your mouth. But if you wear a mask, you're often like you're adjusting it, so you're touching your face and exposing more germs to your face. So if you wear a mask, just do it the right way. And if you're not wearing a mask, just wash your hands, avoid touching your face. On an average, person touches his face 23 times per hour in an hour. So just try to do that, right?
It's a big advantage of the mask is it stops you picking your nose in public.
And yes, and I would emphasize that Dr. Hisham said about the washing your hand and before you touching your mucosa and eyes, because a recent study have found that novel coronavirus can survive in the surface at least 9 hours. 9 hours. So that's why. So you should hand hygiene and protecting yourself is the best.
So to remember that I think WHO came up with a video. They say it's the T-zone, so the eyes and the nose and the mouth. So you don't avoid touching the T-zone. Right?
Okay, over here we got one.
Yes. General comment about treating infectious diseases. Ozone therapy has been effective. Ozone therapy was used to treat Ebola cases in Sierra Leone. And you can see the articles published in African Journal and PubMed by R.J. Rowan, MD.
Thank you. I have no knowledge of that. Ozone therapy, no. It's not something we can comment on. We're not aware of it.
Hello. Okay, Barry.
This morning I got an email from my friend. He lives in Taiwan and spent his holiday with his wife, Taiwanese wife, in Phuket. And he liked to travel back. Yesterday he got the information from the Taiwan authority. If he go back to Taiwan, he stay in quarantine at least for 14 days. If you do not follow this advice, there will be a fine of 1,500,000 baht. So if someone plan to travel, have to watch daily news outcome.
It's not something we can comment on.
Right. So in Thailand as well, the regulation is dynamic every day because the disease is dynamic. So the patient and the investigation, sometimes they have to self-quarantine and report to the disease control department. Otherwise, they're gonna follow you. And yeah, it's, as I told you, the website is up to date every day. Like previously, we just concerned only in Hubei province, returned back from Hubei, but at the moment we extend to all China country. But we don't know, maybe tomorrow is maybe additional more some countries, we don't know at the moment. They're just trying to check it up there with the local government in each country.
Barry?
I'm flying Thai Airlines to Japan, and I've seen that they have a process of cleaning the aircraft. How effective is that, and should they be required not to have just turnarounds that are coming in from China, but to wait the number of hours that you've just specified are required for the virus to die?
I'm not too sure about the spraying in the flight, but in Japan, like when you enter the border, they've got like disinfecting drugs on the ground, which you have to like step on and then go to the next. And then they have a screening for like thermal scanners. But this, I've not just recently came back like 3 weeks ago, but there was no spraying in the aircraft.
So the disinfections in the aircraft, we do all the flight. Every flight we should do that because it's under the international health regulations. No matter you just came back from China or Japan, every flight that we have disinfectant or even mosquito spray and disinfectant spray, they do every flight, not just only to Japan or China at the moment. It's the basic regulation for the international travel.
But not with passengers on board, right? When the passengers on board.
Right. After you get off.
Any more questions?
Yeah, another one.
Hi. Why do doctors in Wuhan and nurses in full protective gear get infected?
All right. So what we think is like based on the more recent studies, like more of the hospital healthcare workers are getting infected. So this is seen in other outbreaks as well because the healthcare workers are not trained or refreshed with putting on or taking off their personal protective equipment. So probably that's the area where there is a...
Okay, so putting on protective gear is not just putting it on. You actually have to buddy up. So 2 people watch you and check that you're fully sealed before you enter the room. That's part of the training. It's not just, I'll just put my boots and gloves on. You know? They have to check that you've got it fitted. Fitting the masks in particular is difficult. They're using N95 masks. They're painful to wear. You may have seen online some of the scars and the marks from the nursing staff wearing the mask for 8, 12-hour shifts. It really does scar the face. So people have not been fitting properly, have not been trained adequately.
With summer coming and higher temperatures, what's the prognosis? Become more infective or less infective? And should we have any precautions for sun crown?
Hopefully the virus is, decreased by the temperature, but at the moment we don't know yet. At the moment, how it can be survived. As I told you, the recent data found that it can survive on the surface at least 9 hours. So we're hopeful that the coming summer will help us to naturally kill the virus on the surface.
Yeah, that's a good question. Based on what we've observed from the previous outbreaks, coronavirus outbreaks, they don't last that long. So it's either 4 months or 6 months. So we're hoping that these 2 weeks we would know what the turn is for this present outbreak. Hopefully it's going to come down. If it doesn't come down, then it's a lot of more problems in places where they have events like the Japan Tokyo 2020. So that'll be a problem, and if the outbreak is not contained, it might further escalate it.
Hot off the travel press, I arrived back yesterday from the US via Manila. From LAX to Manila, blankets and pillows were issued. Flying from Manila here, they've been ordered, the airline, and this was Philippine Airlines, not to give blankets and pillows on the flight.
Okay, latest WHO advice is not to issue blankets and pillows. Yes. And that's because not all airlines remove them and take them to washing. Some actually carry them on to the next flight, the next passenger. So if it doesn't come in a sealed plastic bag, don't give us it.
As you can see by looking around here, we have a lot of mature people. And one of the show that he put on was older people stand more chance of catching this virus. If we are by chance infected and we go into an isolation, who pays?
Okay, first just to clarify, anyone can catch the virus. Older people seem more susceptible to serious symptoms and death. Okay? So younger people are getting the virus as well, but they're not suffering as much with it. So older people, particularly if there are comorbidities present, if you have diabetes, if you have hypertension, if you have reduced immune system, you're more likely to become seriously symptomatic with it. You know? Okay, who pays?
So for the quarantine and the investigation at the moment, the Thai government cover for that, but for the hospital fee and the hospital stay, at the moment they still not yet the cover of that. Otherwise, you have the insurance.
Okay, just adding one more thing. So, how many of you here are on antihypertensives? Like losartan, valsartan? Just one person. Right. So the new evidence is like the virus attaches to the ACE receptor, right? The angiotensin converting receptor, which is blocked by this antihypertensive tablet. So chances are you might not develop the disease. But we have to prove that. Do you get it? So if you have, if you take an antihypertensive medication, this medication blocks the receptor which the SARS virus gains entry to the cell. Alright? So most likely you might not have illness or you might have a minimal illness. But we need to find that out.
Well, firstly, on behalf really of everybody here, I really want to acknowledge you guys. I don't know how that could have been any better than it was, so kudos to you guys. And I happened to be up in Bangkok picking up my friends from the airport, so I actually went to the travel clinic and I got the pneumonia vaccine. So it is worth thinking about if you haven't had the pneumonia vaccine. Also, I just wanted to comment that some of my friends have, what I think, overreacted, right? Like there's not one case yet of coronavirus in Pattaya, and yet I've got one friend who's moved up country with his girlfriend to escape the coronavirus, and people who are talking about moving to the US, abandoning here and moving to the US to escape it. Do you have a comment on people's work? That sort of, to me, that's an overreaction, right?
Well, I do hope he had the Japanese encephalitis vaccination
Exactly,
before
right?
he went out.
Exactly, that's what I thought.
Frankly, he's got far more chance of contracting that than he has of coronavirus.
Yeah, because he didn't come to your talk that covered Japanese encephalitis. By the way, just generally, look, we have all these talks go onto the PCEC YouTube channel, right? If you're not on the emailing list, please go to the website, pcec.club, get on the emailing list, and then the emails will come to you and it will have a link. So the last talk, the talk for this, you'll just be able to click on the link, go to the talk or the interview every week. So it's really worth it, and you can refer your friends to it, because I think this is like a total world-class talk. Thank you.
Yes, I want to particularly thank our team from Mahidol University for appearing on the same stage as an old person like me.
That was a really very good, informative talk. In fact, I'm very happy. Oh, where are you going to? Where are you off to? Come back here. Okay, thank you so much for coming. Dr. Hisham Imad and Dr. Wasin Matsee. I'm sorry if I've pronounced your name incorrectly. Okay, come close. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.